For a long time, games never made me cry. They made me excited. They made me angry. They made me frustrated enough to turn the console off and swear I was finished, only to come back 10 minutes later. But cry? No. Games were games, toys, escapes. Things you did after homework, before tea, late at night when the house was quiet. They weren't supposed to touch anything real. At least, that's what we believed. In the early days, on the Mega Drive, Super Nintendo, even the 3DO, stories were thin. A paragraph in a manual, a villain, a goal, a finish line. You didn't expect emotion, you expected challenge. And yet, even back then, the seeds were there. Sometimes it was just music. The lonely tones of Echo the Dolphin drifting through a quiet room late at night. The strange melancholy of Flashback, where isolation felt heavier than danger. The unsettling emptiness of Another World, where the game never explained itself. It just dropped you into something cold and unfamiliar. You didn't cry, but you felt something. You just didn't know what to call it yet. The first real cracks appeared in the 16-bit era. On the Super Nintendo, Earthbound didn't shout its emotions, it whispered them. Ordinary towns, ordinary people, and an ending that felt like saying goodbye to childhood itself. On the Mega Drive, Phantasy Star 4 did something unexpected. A character you traveled with, joked with, relied on, gone. No miracle, no reversal, just a black screen, text, music that felt heavier than it had any right to be. That was new. Games weren't just obstacles anymore, they were companions. Then the PlayStation arrived, and with it, ambition. I remember the room before I remember the moment, curtains half drawn, that soft CRT glow filling the corners of the room. A quiet house, not empty, just settled. I'd been playing longer than I realized, that familiar feeling where time bends and the outside world fades away. And then the game slowed down, not mechanically, emotionally. The music changed first. It always does. Not louder, not dramatic, softer. For many people, that first moment came with Final Fantasy VII. Even people who weren't RPG kids know it. You're deep into the story, comfortable, invested, you trust the game. And then Aerith dies. No reversal, no miracle, no reset. She just falls. The music stops being adventurous and becomes respectful. The camera lingers. You put the controller down without meaning to, waiting, because surely the game will undo this. It doesn't. And in that moment, a generation learned something new. Games could take something away and not give it back. For many people, that was the first tear. Not because of graphics, not because of realism, because loss finally meant loss. For others, it was Link's Awakening, a bright, cheerful Zelda game that slowly reveals its truth. The island exists only because the windfish is dreaming, and if you finish the game properly, everything disappears. The people, the places, the memories. The game doesn't congratulate you, it lets you sit with it. Around the same time, Chrono Trigger asked an impossible question. What if the hero just died? Chrono gone, time moving on without him, a party continuing despite the absence. That hurt in a way games never had before because grief doesn't stop time. Then came the Dreamcast, a strange, beautiful machine that felt like it arrived from the future and left too soon. Shenmue wasn't dramatic, but it was emotional in a quieter way, waiting for shops to open, walking empty streets, losing a father you could never save. The sadness wasn't explosive. It was slow, persistent, real. Then the PlayStation 2 era deepened everything. Metal Gear Solid did something different. At first it felt clever and cinematic, breaking the fourth wall, reading your memory card, playing tricks on you. You admired it for being smart. But then there was Sniper Wolf. At first she's just a boss, an enemy at the end of a rifle scope. You fight her twice. The second time she's wounded and dying. The snow falls quietly. The battlefield goes still. She talks, not like a villain, but like a person. She tells you about growing up surrounded by war, about the battlefield being the only place she ever belonged. The music doesn't celebrate. It mourns. You don't feel victorious. You feel like you've done something you can't take back. When she dies, there's no triumph, just silence and a wolf howling in the distance. That moment stayed with people because the game didn't ask you to win. It asked you to understand. Ocarina of Time did it quietly. You pull the Master Sword expecting triumph and wake up 7 years later. Childhood gone, friends older, the world darker. You return to Kokiri Forest and realize something painful. It didn't change. You did. Shadow of the Colossus took everything even further. No dialogue, no explanations, just you, a vast, empty world, and creatures that don't attack unless you disturb them. Each Colossus falls slowly, tragically. The music feels apologetic, not victorious. And when the truth is revealed, you understand you were never the hero. Final Fantasy X broke people gently.
I don't have time to be dreaming now.
Learning he doesn't truly exist. Yuna smiling through a fate she's already accepted. The ending, that moment where Yuna runs forward and passes through his arms. No screaming, no rage, just acceptance. People didn't sob, they sat still. Aiko turned connection into mechanics, holding a button to keep someone safe, letting go when distance became too great, feeling panic when that connection broke. Silent Hill,
what you've been looking for.
2 didn't scare people, it unsettled them. James reading the letter, realizing the horror wasn't monsters, it was guilt, loss,
dreams,
love twisted into regret. The game whispered instead of screamed. By the time the HD era arrived, games had learned something important. They didn't need to rush. They could let moments breathe. Gears of War didn't look like an emotional series. Big guns, loud combat, armored soldiers. And then there was Dominic Santiago, always beside you, always loyal, cracking jokes to keep the darkness away. You learn about Maria, his wife, missing and presumed dead. Hope is the only thing keeping him moving. And when you finally find her, the game stops. No gunfire, no music. Maria is alive, but broken beyond saving. Dom kneels, apologizes, and pulls the trigger. The game gives you nothing, no reward, no sound, just silence. Later, Dom stays behind, surrounded, smiling sadly. This is what I'm good at. And then he's gone. Not replaced, absent. That absence hurts because you played beside him. Then came Halo, Reach. You already know how it ends. The planet falls. One by one your team disappears, not in cutscenes, but in gameplay. The final objective isn't win, it's survive. And when that becomes impossible, the game lets you stand there anyway. Helmet cracked, screen fading. Call of Duty Modern Warfare, 2 shocked people differently. Ghost and Roach. The mission is over. You've done everything right. And then Shepard shoots you. You're on the ground, burning, unable to move. Ghost is killed beside you. You don't fight back. You don't get control. You watch. It wasn't heroic. It was betrayal. And people never forgot it. The Walking Dead from Telltale stripped everything back. Lee Everett wasn't powerful. He was just trying to protect Clementine. And when the end comes, the game asks you what to teach her, mercy or strength. That moment broke people, not because Lee died, but because Clementine lived with your choice. Mass Effect turned loss into consequence. Squad mates you talked to between missions, learned about, trusted. Mordin singing quietly before sacrificing himself. Thane dying slowly, knowing his time is ending. The crew standing silent because words don't help anymore. The galaxy keeps moving. Red Dead Redemption understood tragedy better than most films. John Marston trying to earn peace, trying to be better, believing it's possible. And then the barn doors open. You know, you step forward anyway, because that's who he is. And when the screen fades, you don't feel heroic. You feel hollow. And finally, The Last of Us. Sarah dying in Joel's arms at the very beginning. The world ending not with explosions, but with loss. And at the end, Joel lies. Not to save the world, but to save himself from losing another daughter. The game doesn't judge him. It lets you decide how you feel. That's when it becomes clear. The first time a game made you cry wasn't about graphics or writing or voice acting. It was about participation. You didn't watch the loss. You lived it. And once that door opens, games never go back to being just games again. They become places where grief is safe, where silence matters, where loss doesn't need fixing. And maybe that's why those moments stay with us. Because they didn't just make us cry. They reminded us we could feel deeply, even in places we never expected.
Peace.